Welcome to Best Picture This, where it is always Oscar season. I'm Mike.
And I'm Brian. In this show, we reevaluate every Best Picture nominee from the 21st century and decide whether to keep it or kick it from its Oscar pedestal.
And I was thinking about this, Brian. Do you think that any of the movies that we've kicked have ever returned from the grave, enraged at our inhumanity?
And have you ever kicked a movie and then regretted it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But do you think that there's like a rage zombie version of Seabiscuit somewhere galloping around?
We did look at the, I looked at the IMDb popularity, and a lot of them were going down after our episodes. Remember that?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in 2003, the nominees for Best Picture were Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, Lost in Translation, Mystic River, Seabiscuit, and The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. But today, we'll be talking about the most important horror movie of the year, 28 Days Later, directed by Danny Boyle. Here's the trailer.
So who are you?
I wake up today in hospital. I wake up and I'm hallucinating.
I've got some bad news.
They're infected.
Infected!
Father.
Infected with what?
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
It's the blood. There's something in the blood.
Lesson 1. You never go anywhere alone unless you've got no choice.
Hello?
Lesson 2. Only travel during daylight unless you've got no choice.
See, this is a really shit idea. You know why? It's obviously a shit idea.
We have to leave now. More will be coming. They always do.
They're dead. And you're gonna be next.
Don't you hate it when you listen to a trailer and you just feel like you just watched the whole movie?
That's
like
the way you felt.
Like you already know what's going to happen in the whole movie. You know,
it's a zombie movie. You kind of know. Is it a zombie movie? I guess that's the big question.
That's the big question. Now that's a trailer that maybe we should just skip that trailer because you can't even tell what's happening in that one. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry that ClearPlay wasn't available for that trailer. I didn't know that was a bad word in it. Despite Boyle not considering this a zombie movie, 28 Days Later, ... which I think we need to add ... every time we say the title.
Every time. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's according to Wikipedia, is credited with reinvigorating the zombie genre. Do you think that's accurate?
Oh, yeah. We'll get into it.
Yeah. All right. This movie was a tremendously successful movie. It had just a super low budget of $8 million. I mean, that's just chump change. Anybody could make a movie for $8 million.
Easy.
And it made how much?
85, I think.
$82.7 million. One of the most profitable horror films of '02.
I love it.
Coming up in this show, we'll do our Farley Awards for the most awesome moment of the movie, Golden Takes. We'll ask each other one question designed to unleash the infected chimpanzees of truth into your life. We'll imagine what might have been. We'll talk trivia and the big reveal if this should it be kept or kicked.
The chimpanzees of truth. I'm still getting over that one. Yeah. But first, our Farley Awards for the most awesome moment of the movie. So I'm going to go with the night attack back at Cillian Murphy's family house. So this is just.
Is it Cillian Murphy?
I think it's Cillian Murphy.
Oh, Cillian Murphy.
Yeah. So this is just after he insists on going back there to check on his parents, only to find them dead in their bed. Mm-hmm. And I love it for both how it's shot, but also how it establishes kind of the rules of the world almost. So in the scene, nighttime, everyone's asleep. and Killian's looking at pictures on the fridge by candlelight. And the sequence starts as a flashback of his parents like in the kitchen, and it's very dreamy and sweet, and it cuts back and forth between then and him thinking about then. But what's cool is how these flashbacks are from his point of view. And there's this moment that really surprised me in it where his dad says something and he responds like in modern day to his dad in the flashback. So we get this mix of like memory, reality, dream, memory, and it all looks like a home movie, which is kind of great. But it's this moment that only makes emotional sense, really. But I think the mood of it is so strong that it sets up this great jump scare when all of a sudden the style changes totally when we cut outside of the house and we get like that zombie POV and the handheld camera. It's very shaky, and then it charges toward the candlelight in the kitchen kind of through this sliding door. So now we know that light is an attractor for these guys. It smashes through the door, tries to kill everybody like they do, and they kill this zombie. But then once the paranoia of all of that is like fully established, it gets even worse when we realize that Mark, their kind of third companion here, has been bitten, and Selena, sort of the ringleader, just automatically hacks him to pieces with a machete.
No hesitation.
No hesitation whatsoever. So it's a surprise to us because we kind of thought, oh, they had a relationship going at the beginning of this movie just because they were together.
She warned him ahead of time that it was going to be, I won't, what did she say? I won't.
Yeah, within 30 seconds flat or something like that. But I just love that the scene starts beautiful, ends brutal. And through it, we understand so much more about what Selena is about, what Cillian Murphy's character is about, and how these zombies operate.
That's what really stood out to me when as I was early on in the movie, is how much you could tell that even though it was very interesting style with the shot, and we'll get into some of that about, the fact that it was shot all digital, and it's the first time that anybody ever done that.
Was it the first time?
The first wide release.
Ah, okay.
I'm sure there's lots of non-wide release that we'll never know about. But yeah, the attention to the setup of each shot, I guess I was surprised by how well crafted it seemed. Early on. Yeah.
So you thought that horror movies didn't have...
I figured that you would probably tell me to watch some low-budget horror movie that was going to be crappy.
Come on.
That's kind of what I figured.
You know what? Now I'm getting enraged.
My Farley Award goes to the variety of shots of Mr. Murphy. I'll just call him Mr. Murphy in London Deserted. This is, I think, so he's walking through London. There's garbage in the streets. All these iconic landmarks are either starkly just empty, or there's like a bus on its side.
Yeah. And
he's just he's shouting out, hello. Where is anybody? There's some super long shots of him really tiny in the screen where he's walking across, a crosswalk or something. They just pile up one on top of the other, and it just it creates the effect not just of one shot that makes him look lonely, but you have shot after shot after shot, and you just think how isolated, and like, is anything else going to happen in the movie? Like, you could almost believe that there is no one else.
Yeah.
Of course, there's got to be some peeps to kill in a movie like this. But I read a little bit more about how this was shot. Anyway, that's my Farley Award. But for the scenes on the motorway in London, the production team got permission to shoot on a Sunday morning between 7 and 9 a.m. And the police had to like slow down traffic for them.
Yeah.
And they used 10 cameras. And they got 1 minute of usable footage from shooting for those couple hours, just like, this is all you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's one of those shots. It's sort of like if you have a big building that has to explode in the movie, you're not getting to do this again. There's one time.
But like you're saying, all of those sort of, not only the establishing shots of the city, but the shots of him walking through it, you know that he is actually in the city. You can tell because they show you from so many different angles that you're not just seeing a green screen, and it makes it so much cooler.
Totally. I also love the idea how Mark, the third companion, and these characters are telling Cillian Murphy about how the world ended, because he doesn't really know. He's in a coma. And you never see it. It's just all these stories. It's like stories told at night, nightmare stories, but they're in the reality. I think it's smart not to show those. I think it's just... you get the stories, and that makes it even scarier.
Yeah, you're just dropped in the middle of this world, and you just have to adapt right away.
Golden
really
take.
Smart. Golden take. So a lot of what makes this movie work so well, I think, is its grainy, low budget feel. And you mentioned the budget. So some of that is by necessity. You know, $8 million budget is not huge, especially for a movie where they empty out all of London and Parliament and show us those.
It's not shot in like a little house set.
It's not. But unlike A Blair Witch, which was shot just in the woods, you know, we get these very impressive city shots. And I think because it feels so lo-fi, it almost feels like the opposite of a blockbuster. So seeing shots like those are even more surprising and impressive because of that. And it sets up this documentary feel, right? So that got me thinking about how this movie influenced horror kind of as a whole. Because nowadays, low budget, handheld, found footage like that's a huge...
Passe.
Kind of, because it's been done so many times. Yeah. I mean, when it's done well, I think it can be great, but it's kind of become such a standard in a way. And I don't think it started here because, again, Blair Witch, 1999. But 28 Days Later, I think, proved that Blair Witch's success, or at least the aesthetic, wasn't a fluke, that breakthrough didn't happen by accident. It kind of reminded studios that horror fans or film goers in general don't care about gloss in horror movies. And so in a way, I think...
Give us gore, not gloss.
Give us mood, not gloss.
Yeah.
Give us craft. Give us surprise. And so in that way, I think it opened up the gates for something like Cloverfield in 2008. Even, it's a stretch, but Paranormal Activity in 2007, just because Blumhouse, their whole model is like very, very low budget, kind of wide release. And that movie was made for like nothing and went on to basically really kickstart the found footage thing. But obviously, zombies. We got to talk about zombies here, and more specifically running zombies, because a lot of people...
Fast zombies.
Yeah, they'll be upset at the idea of a zombie that can run. I personally don't care. I understand that...
Do people care about that?
Oh, yeah. Go online.
Zombies aren't fast.
Because zombies' bodies are decomposing. How could they run? They don't have muscles is the whole idea.
Most of my experience with zombies is seeing screen images of plants versus zombies more so than zombie movies.
Okay.
Those are slow.
Yeah, they are. And I guess it's also the idea that when zombies are slow, that they don't really pose a threat when it's just one, but it's more like the group, you know, and you have to figure out how to like exist in a world that's kind of out to get you slowly. But the very next year after this, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake, running zombies in that, and Shaun of the Dead, same year. After that, World War Z, Planet Terror, Zombieland, Warm Bodies, and then The Walking Dead in 2010. So all of that, I think small budgets, zombies, 28 Days Later is kind of important. And I don't know if it really seems that way at first glance.
Very good. So my golden take, Christy Lemire, Associated Press critic. She is. In 2013, have you ever seen What the Flick?
Oh, yeah.
YouTube,
yeah, it's good.
YouTube video. I don't know if she still does it, actually, but when I was watching it, she did. Christy Lemire for Associated Press said, what makes 28 Days Later ... effective and sets it apart from other thrillers is that it makes you care about the characters. And I think that what maybe surprised me the most and maybe the greatest achievement of this movie is the relationship between Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris, who also, by the way, I didn't recognize her, but she's also the mother of Moonlight in 2016. Oh. And I didn't realize that. I was trying to figure out, she's so good in this. I was like, what else have I seen her in? Because there's got to be some other good stuff. And I don't remember her whole filmography, but the relationship...
her whole filmography.
I didn't memorize it all. But the relationship, I think, is very believable. It's young man, young woman. They're in tight quarters. Like you kind of wonder, like any movie, this is setting up sort of a relationship, probably.
Yeah.
But because it's a horror movie and like there's a lot of blood flying around, you don't. Well, at least in some people's versions of it. You don't really know if that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But when they get to the bunker, this is a great twist. A lot of people criticize the last third. I thought the last third was really great. The last third, they get to the bunker and you got these paramilitary type people and the guy goes, I promised them women. And now you know that Naomi Harris and the other girl, I forget her name,
Hannah.
They are in danger.
Yep.
And they're being like going to be used as sex slaves. And that amped up the stakes not only of the world and the movie, but also of that relationship. now he like wants to save them. He doesn't want to save them just because he wants to save humanity. I think he wants to save them because he likes Naomi Harris's character. And
because they've become a family.
Yes,
at that
exactly.
point.
Yeah. Now, the question. Well, I'll ask my. Well, yeah, I have my question next.
Just
right?
roll straight into it.
This is my question.
Yep.
Switching to question. We need theme music for questions. Okay. I buy the relationship.
Okay.
I like it. It's great. But when they finally kiss,
yeah,
do you remember what Cillian Murphy what he's just done? He's just like, eating a dude, right? And he's covered with blood. Somebody else's blood.
Was that the first time? I don't think,
so.
Weren't they at that kind of like
maybe
those ruins?
There was a kiss there too.
I did think about that though.
But
after that kill scene.
I don't know if you've ever like tried to kiss your wife and you're sweaty. It doesn't happen, right? You get rejected.
Even just that.
Don't you get rejected if you're sweaty?
Yeah.
Like you might be sweaty from like working in the yard. You're gonna joke about giving your wife a hug, but you wouldn't actually do it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I might.
You might. Yeah. I wouldn't. I'm a nicer person.
Yeah.
You certainly wouldn't get a whole lot of kissing going on if you're sweaty. Now, what if you're covered with, say, someone else's blood that is also probably infected?
That's what I thought. Yes, because it's one thing that it's gross, but it's another thing about it where even if a droplet gets in your eyeball, you turn into one.
You're gone.
And now she's puckering up.
My question is, if you were Naomi Harris, would you have kissed Cillian Murphy in that situation?
I would have shaken his hand and said, "Good work."
I would have dunked my body in sanitizer, which is probably plentiful because, I mean, they're in a pandemic. There's got to be sanitizer everywhere.
Would you have done an elbow bump?
If he shows me no blood first.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go into my question, Brian. Anne Hornaday, Washington Post. She called 28 Days Later, quote, unrelentingly grim, unremittingly gross, and unforgivably unattractive. Then she went on. What's most objectionable about 28 Days Later is the opportunity it squanders to be a social, even political allegory on par with such forebears as Dawn of the Dead and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. In the age of SARS, monkeypox, and sleeper cells, it's easy to imagine Boyle making at least some metaphorical hay. Instead, his cardinal point seems to be that anger is bad for people and other living things. 28 Days Later is detestable. Not just because its action is so vile or its technique so crude, but because its moral imagination is so impoverished. When I read this, I had a field day with it.
Oh, yeah.
So do you agree that, as Hornaday seems to suggest, that this is a pretty straight-up genre exercise, and that's it? Or does Boyle have bigger social themes in mind?
No, I mean, again, as Christy Lemire said, the relationships make it like an action movie, like a good action movie.
Is that maybe people's complaint about the ending, is that it sort of turns into full-on action in a way?
I don't know. I mean, the home invasion, the defending the castle, it does feel like it goes to it's like genre within a genre, kind of. Maybe it starts to feel a little more predictable somehow. I don't know, but I didn't have that problem.
What about the social themes? Do you feel like they're there, or did you not think about that at all?
The social themes, meaning that we could run into an apocalypse because of a pandemic, that certainly occurred to me since we're in a pandemic now. For all of you 2040 listeners.
People who are listening decades in the future when this is in the Library of Congress. I don't know. What social theme are you thinking? I mean, maybe social is less. I think there's bigger themes about people and emotions and like trauma corrupting and like inhumane treatment turning people into monsters. That's kind of the big one, I would think. Mm-hmm. But also the fact for me that I thought about this time was the idea, and sort of the ending of the movie sort of pushes this point home, that kind of bad people don't think that they're bad, that we have a great talent for rationalizing and justifying every bad thing that we do so that we always kind of feel like we're good and we're right. You think about the scientist at the beginning who's in the lab. Mm-hmm. He's telling them, don't let this monkey out of the cage.
Like, we want to save the animals.
Yeah, but to first cure, you must understand, he's saying. So they see him as an evil force. He's trying to learn and fix this problem. They see themselves as the good force, letting out these animals, but they're actually the ones who spread the virus throughout the entire world, or at least throughout Britain. And the military is so focused on repopulating the country that they are convinced that what they're doing is right, even though we see them as monstrous. And Cillian Murphy then at the end kind of turns into a monster, but he's doing something for just cause also.
Yeah, that's a great reversal also. You know, he's running from people who are, you know, from these zombies, and he essentially becomes a zombie in his actions, even though he doesn't, he's not actually, you know, infected. So yeah, I think that it's about trust. The horror is having to kill somebody who you care about, who is now become a monster. That's pretty, I think that there's some metaphorical, you know, things to be mined there. All
right, so you were mostly digging it as just a action fun time.
It didn't bother me. I didn't think that it was going over the top on metaphor, but I think that there's clearly room to explore that, and it's a thinking movie, not only just a slasher movie.
Yeah, good way to put it. All right, what might have been?
What might have been? Tell me yes or no about Ewan McGregor playing Cillian Murphy's role.
It makes sense with the Danny Boyle tie-in, I guess.
This is the Phantom Menace days, right? This is 2003, so it's right after.
Yeah, right after. So I guess it was Attack of the Clones. The worst.
Something like that.
The worst of the three. And maybe the worst ever. I'll go on record.
He was the original choice.
Okay.
Then it was like, all right, Ewan McGregor's now working out Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I guess. But
a little too...
American.
Maybe.
I think so.
Could you imagine DiCaprio doing a British accent well?
I'm sure he could, but
I don't think he does accents very well. Then the role was offered to Ryan Gosling.
No.
Totally works.
No, thank you.
Totally. He had a scheduling conflict.
He probably wouldn't talk much, but he would look cute. And so we like him.
Ryan Gosling in Drive. You don't like Ryan Gosling in Drive?
Ryan Gosling in Drive, I think, sort of crystallizes what's wrong with his performances. Because, yes, he's fine.
Come on.
He's fine in this movie.
Drive is awesome.
But he does nothing to earn the love or anything, you know. If he was an ugly guy, yes, or in any of his other movies, if he was an ugly guy, you would wonder, why does this girl like him? He doesn't talk. He's very mysterious. He doesn't do anything. But if he picks up your kid and carries him to bed once, and because he looks good, then you think that's depth, not mystery and vacancy.
You fall in love.
Anyway, that's my rant about
There are
Gosling.
several endings that were filmed with this movie. Most of them, Cillian Murphy is killed. But they did a test audience, and they didn't like it, so they went with what they have here. So the ending, it looks like they're going to be saved, right? Yep. And it's more like, it's also shot in 35 millimeter instead of the digital. That's the only part that's shot smooth.
With a fighter jet, another example of the budget being stretched sort of in smart ways.
So I thought that was interesting. Do you like the ending, or do you think that it feels a little less like, again, one of my criteria for a horror movie is the ending. The bad guy has to win. And in this one, you sort of have like a happy ending.
I never have really agreed with that.
Well, you should.
I think that this is a proof of concept that you're wrong.
But this one makes it unusual as a horror movie.
I guess so. But I do like that at the end it kind of feels lighter, which the entire rest of the movie almost doesn't have any moments of that. So I think it's a good change.
There are some kind of lighter moments here and there. I think they do a good job.
When they meet Frank and Hannah, and like you can tell that a family is starting to form. The Christmas lights blinking. That's a nice scene.
Mm-hmm. Trivia. It's one of the first mainstream films to be shot entirely digitally. And Boyle said in the production notes, the general idea was to try and shoot as though we were survivors too. I kind of like that. I feel like the digital made the aesthetic of it made perfect sense for the story itself.
Yeah.
Peter Rayner of New York Magazine / Vulture wrote in 2004, it makes for a more intimate brand of horror, one we can't explain away by pretending we're watching the same old well-oiled Hollywood malarkey.
Glossy.
Not very
glossy malarkey. I'm with Rayner on that one.
Is the others too glossy?
Oh, I love the others. No. The others.
That's pretty glossy.
It is.
Nicole Kidman too pretty for horror.
No, but the cinematography is still great. It's not about just like throwing money at the problem and making it look big budget. That movie is very, very self-contained and small. It just looks very pretty.
Yeah, it's interesting. A big fan of this movie was Stephen King. He bought out an entire showing of the film in New York City.
Okay. Didn't want anybody else to see it.
Megan Burns, and I thought I was going to double check this. I think she played Hannah.
Okay.
Am I correct?
I don't know.
Shoot, I need to look that up.
Should have looked it up.
Megan Burns, I think, played Hannah. Let's see. I have actually 28 Days Later, ... on IMDb right in front of me. Megan Burns. Oh, no, I can't find it fast enough. Yeah, she's Hannah. Okay.
Worth the wait.
Totally worth the wait. Well, she retired after acting. She retired from acting after
this movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not wishing to pursue a full-time career as an actress, instead focused on her passion for music and singing. But she was in another movie 16 years later, 2018, in Intruders. I haven't seen that.
I don't think I've seen that either.
Intruders with a 2 instead of a T. It's clever.
Of course.
Sort of like the ...
Mm-hmm.
Jim, or Cillian Murphy, spends 30% of the film shirtless and or nude. And I think some of that was cut because I would not have guessed 30%.
It's like the first shot of the entire movie.
Yeah, but that's not
full
30%.
Frontal.
I mean, the end he has no shirt when he's running around the woods.
I mean,
but did I miss a whole bunch of nude shots?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it opens up first shot of the movie.
Yeah, but not like you. Is it dwelling on him for 10 minutes after that?
No,
totally nude.
It is
because he's wearing his scrubs as he's walking through London.
But then the entire last sequence, he's shirtless when he's
but shirtless.
Monster mode. Well, it says shirtless.
It's a big deal.
Or
nude.
So they're combining.
Keep it or kick it.
All right.
We already know the 2003 movies.
Yeah. So I just want to preface this by saying this won Best Horror Film at the U.S. Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films Saturn Award, and it won Best British Film Empire Award.
Yeah.
So
Best British film total.
Of course, I'm going to keep this over some other ones.
But is Master and Commander British film? Because that would clearly win over 28 Days
Peter
Later.
Weir is American, I believe.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that.
There's a lot of British accents.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely keep this over Seabiscuit.
I didn't ask Seabiscuit.
You're just, listen, this is what we do. We compare it against the other ones, and Seabiscuit's out.
Okay.
Master and Commander.
Would you kick that?
I don't.
There's only 2 movies.
I don't know. I might kick it. I might kick it.
Lost in Translation?
I would kick. Yeah, I would put
Lord of the Rings, Return of the King?
Haven't rewatched it yet. I might kick Lord of the Rings also.
Mystic River.
No, they're going to battle it out.
Yeah.
I'll keep those on there.
Very good. I would definitely kick Seabiscuit easy for this. I don't know about the other 4. I haven't rewatched Return of the King. I did really like this, and it did make an impression on me, and I thought about it afterwards. So it's definitely a candidate for top 10. I can't decide if it's really a candidate for top 5 yet, but it's definitely good.
We'll see. In
the next episode, we'll talk about Matrix Reloaded, the sequel to the second best movie of 1999.
The first best movie of 1999. But before then, we want to hear from you. Is 28 Days Later a zombie movie? Can zombies run? We need to know. Let us know, and we read your answers on the show. You can find us at bestpicturethis.com, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or everywhere else you get your podcasts. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at Best Picture This. And for 15 years of Golden Takes, head over to Letterboxd, where you'll find me, Mike Cavalieri.
Do you have a favorite movie from the past that doesn't get the attention it deserves? If you become a patron of this show by visiting patreon.com/bestpicturethis, you can help choose a movie for one of our future bonus episodes, like The Fly Garden State, Bridge on the River Kwai, Drowning Mona, and Pleasantville.
Thanks to WNZF and Mark Gilliland for producing, and please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. A 5-star review there really goes a long way to help us reach new listeners.
To conclude, listeners, get vaccinated if you're listening in 2021. So you don't turn into a zombie.
Good advice.